Welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast, a weekly live show where we explore the power of culture and leadership in business. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers, and we go live every week to learn from each other and hear from other experts about how to effectively champion our team members and ourselves. So join us live every Wednesday on our social networks or subscribe. You can listen to Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, let's champion your culture.
What's going on? What's going on? We are back for another week of Champion Your Culture. George, what's happening, man?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, man. I'm excited, man. I don't know about what's going on up north, but the weather is lovely here.
It's beautiful.
It's the roller coaster. I remember living in Indiana growing up. It was like you have every season every week sometimes.
Yeah.
And we went from like 70, 80 degrees. I had some friends from Indiana come and visit me this past weekend, and we went from 80 degrees to like 50 degrees. So they brought Indiana weather to me. Now that they're gone, all of a sudden we're back at 70, 75 degrees, man. I'm loving it. And it's great to be here with you this morning on Champion Your Culture, sponsored by
Culture of Good. Yeah,
so
man.
Appreciate Culture Good for sponsoring us again, as always. And we want to welcome everybody that's watching or listening to us live and or on your platform at another time. We appreciate you joining in with us and watching and listening to us. And as always, we want to thank you for doing such. If you like what you're hearing, if you like to support Ryan and I and continue to help us grow this Champion Your Culture network, we appreciate it if you like, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you know when we go live each and every week on Champion Your Culture.
Hell, even if you don't like us on at least on socials, give us some love or something. Jeez.
Support us and tell us the truth. Like, why you don't? And like, if you don't like me, that's fine, but I at least want to know why. Not that I care, but sometimes it may be something that could change my life, and you can be the
Hey, George, not only do I like you, I love you, man. So
I
there's
want
that.
Some more of you.
There are certain people that I love that I don't like. Typically, they fall into the family member space, but most of my family I love and like. Yeah. But they say friends are God's way of apologizing for our family. So, you got to have people in your life that you really like to be around and love to be around. And all of our champions and those that join us weekly, if you're here with us for the first time, welcome. I mean, really, it's a lot to jump into a new space and listen to some new voices. So thank you for joining us. A really fascinating conversation that we're going to have on transformational leadership. But before we do, I just want to ask, George, how's your morning started, man?
It started great, man. I tell you what, the last 2 weeks, I've been on this 20, 25-minute HIIT, exercise,
nice.
Around 6:30. And it's been great. And I've done something weird. And what's funny is I think you actually made a comment about this, or maybe tweeted it, about people who stop drinking coffee to move to green tea.
Yeah.
I'm a green tea guy. I won't lie, for many reasons. One, is good for my throat. I love that honey tea lemon mix. And so that's what's in this G cup, this good cup, is some good green tea. But I'm just on this whole self-care. And really taking time within that, Ryan, in between. So I do like 10 minutes strong, and then I'll take 5 minutes of just sitting in peace, meditating. And then I'll go another 10 minutes strong and just do some breathing exercises afterwards. So about 25, 30 minutes of just exercise, a little bit of peace, more exercise, and then some breathing. And at the end of my breathing, I do 5 deep breaths in and out. And then after that, you know what I do? I say something positive over myself, and then I say I speak it out loud. I know it's weird, but I speak it out loud. One thing that I want to accomplish today. The last 2 weeks, man, it's been very inspiring, motivating. Not that everything's been great by any chance. I've had some crappy days and crappy moments, but I always remember, how did I start my morning? What was that one thing? I got to get it. And I'll say I'm shooting about 70% as far as accomplishing that.
That's awesome. Thing. Yeah.
So you got to take care of yourself.
I know the post you're talking about. By replacing your morning coffee with green tea, you can lose up to 87% of what little joy you still have in your life.
Yeah. There you go. So hey, if you need that extra joy, don't get rid of your coffee.
Yeah.
I know some people, brother, cannot survive without the coffee, and so by no means do we want you to turn into something that you don't want to be remembered by because you cancel your coffee. So good morning, everybody. We got a lot of people in the chat
Yeah.
that's with us this morning. So we appreciate everybody joining us.
Lamont, what's
I'm
up?
excited.
Amy, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely shout out where you're from, listening in from. And we just want to, I know we've had people from all over the world join us, George. It's been really great, man, just to see the momentum of people that recognize that when it comes to leadership and when it comes to culture, really, if we really care about people, we're going to care about the type of culture we're building, the type of leader we are. And this goes beyond, I just want to say this, there's all kinds of different leadership styles and ways of leading. Everyone has different leadership styles, but you can be a transformative leader, a true leader, even if maybe you don't have all that charisma you think you need to have, or maybe, you don't feel like you're the best leader in the world, or people look up to someone else. Really, when you decide to be transformative in your own life and really take that on, it has an impact on those that you're leading in terms of your team. So, yeah, I'm excited because this thing is building, and we know that people are ready to champion the work that they're doing, but also to champion the culture, right? Because culture is how most people feel, believe, and behave most of the time. And so, as we're talking about this, and I'm talking to a lot of companies right now that are looking to culture of good, what many people don't know is that culture of good offers a lot in terms of leadership and culture development, more than just one-off trainings, but really leadership development. As we're talking to business owners and executives and decision makers, we're finding that there's a lot of training going on, but in terms of full development of people and investing in people in a way that you see the return on that investment through their life and their work. And I just love this conversation. I
yeah,
love it because when I move, and George, you have a history in doing nonprofit work as well, very transformative work. You see people's lives transformed all the time in nonprofit where you're reaching out, you're making an impact. That shouldn't change when we go into for-profit work, right? We have the
yeah,
ability to really impact and touch people's lives in ways that are uh, are really unique because we have uh, people within our scope of the day for 8, sometimes 9 hours, and to be able to have that collective team where we know that we can invest in that team and see transformative moments in and for them, and them stepping into their place as a leader, right? You talk about it a lot, George. Leaders lead leaders,
yeah.
that's really how you're a transformative leader. You're seeing transformation take place in other people's lives, and you're seeing them lead the others as well. I think that really creates that transformation that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's modeling the way, right? Really, by you leading the life, we talk about this all the time. And self leadership is like, leading your life and leading your life on purpose with purpose. You literally model that way, right? So you're setting that example, and a lot of things that I believe when it comes to transformational leaders, and I think about leaders that really help transform me, right? When I think of a transformer, you remember back in the day, I don't know if they have them still, if they do, but you remember the Transformers growing up, man? There'd be a car
Do
and
I
then all of a
remember the
sudden,
Transformers growing up?
yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that's true transformation, man. It's
Mm.
it's taking that team member that's on your team. It's not anything that we are doing, but we're helping them develop into what they already are internally. It's that I was a car and then I transformed into a tall monster and then I transformed into whatever it needed to be. But whatever it is, it's in you. It's about the development, right? It's the difference between people who are training leaders and people who are developing leaders. When you're a transformational leader, you're enabling the others to act. And part of that enabling them to act is what's already there on them, inspiring them to really be who they are and who they were created to be, and be able to share that vision and be able to challenge them throughout that process of developing so that they're engaged and empowered to do naturally what they are capable of doing. It's that natural capability of inspiration. And those who really impacted me the most, the greatest impact for me when it came from transformational leaders is that the leaders like yourself, the Tims, Mac Mees, and Kevin Bennett, a lot of these men that are in my life. I think about even Rob McDaniel here in the last few years of our friendship, is that everybody remained who they were. That was the key. Like, you didn't change, and and the people didn't change, but y'all didn't force George to come to your level. Y'all came down to where George was, right? So transformational leadership is not saying, "Hey, I'm bringing you here." Transformational leadership says, "I'm here, you here. Let me come down here and help you develop who you are, so that at some point in time, not only are you here, but maybe you're passing me, right? It's
Yeah.
about taking you beyond where I'm at, so you can do more than what I've done as a leader."
And really painting a picture of the future. Exactly what you're saying, and painting a picture of the future that looks different than what people see today, right? We get stuck into this is how business is. But a transformational leader is not only looking at the transformation of their team members, but also how can this culture be transformative, right? How can the way that we do business be transformative? Within the culture of good, can we go into our local communities and be transformative as a business? When
Yeah.
we look at transformative leadership and transformational leadership, we have the opportunity as leaders to paint a vision or to pitch a vision of the future that shifts how society, how the workforce, how we see the vision of what we're all working toward. Right? It reminds me of the story. A lot of people that are listening may have heard it, where the three men are builders are working on laying bricks, and somebody walks by and asks, like, what are you building? And the first builder states, well, I'm a bricklayer, right? I'm laying bricks so that I can feed my family. Have you heard this before?
I don't think I have.
Okay,
Sure.
okay, and
Let's
then
talk
and then
about it.
and then ask the second one. All right, what are you doing? And they said, well, I was told to build this wall, so that I'm building this wall. And then he goes to the third and says, what are you doing? And he says, oh, I'm building a huge cathedral. Right? See, there's something happened. Like, the first bricklayer just sees himself as just feeding family and just going through the tasks of the day. Right? But as you go through, you notice somebody had a transformational leader. The transformational leader, how you see a different future. Right? When you have a transformational leader in your life, let's take that perspective when we think about what does it mean to be led by someone that's transformative. You're not just showing up to work for a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? You're not just showing up because you got a list of tasks to do on a Wednesday. It's not just hump day. You see a bigger picture of what you, your team, and the organization are working toward. There's a different picture of the future, right? There's a brighter future ahead, and being able to not only say that, but to your point, model that as a leader, to say this is where we're going, and it looks different than where we are, right? And I think that is so important to transformational leadership, that we understand that it's so important for those that we're leading to really have a scope beyond what's right in front of them. Right? And that is so important as a leader, because if we get stuck as leaders in the mundane and the everyday, and all the dumpster fires that take place throughout the week, and all we're focused on is the here and now, and we don't have a picture of the future and what we're working toward, there's no way to really lead people to where we've never been. We can't give what we don't have. We can't be a transformative leader until we first allowed ourselves to be transformed, right? And so I want to look at that, because one of the things that came up as we were studying transformative leadership was that the really opposite of transformative leadership is transactional leadership. This is another great way of understanding what transformative leadership is what does it mean to be a transactional leader? Like, when you hear transactional leader, George, what do you think about?
For me, the first thing that comes up is control, right? If I can put it in one word, transactional leaders kind of control. It's, we can go, one focus on goals, the other one, transformational leaders focus on vision, right?
Mm,
And so when I think of it, it's, yeah, transactional leadership really wants to have that, control, and within the simplicity of things. One thinks short term, and how we can maximize. The other one's more long term.
yeah.
That
So transactional is very short term. It's almost like this, like it's do this for me and I'll do this for you. Like if you perform at this level, then I'll lead you better, right? It's like it's very transactional. It's get this done, and a lot of how we've set up cultures within business is transactional. How we have recognition and reward, you know it's very transactional. If you hit the mark, you get this. If you hit it, do this, do that. Transformational leadership says, let's do this together. Instead of do this for me and I'll do this for you, let's do this together. There's a collaboration with it. We talk about three different aspects of what it means to be a transformational leader, and we're really talking about how am I empowering people, right? How am I collaborating with people on my team? And how am I motivating, right? How am I building that desire? You think about the first bricklayer, how motivated is that bricklayer? Sure, very motivated, feed the family. Second bricklayer, sure, build the wall. But the third, motivated, that intrinsic motivation, that cathedral that's being built, that people will come and connect with something greater than themselves. Like to paint that kind of vision and to have that kind of purpose means that transformational leadership isn't that short term, it is that long term.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, that you mentioned. I think the rewards. I think about some of the, I got a lot of a lot of things on my mind, just because, so recently we've been focused on the leadership development side and looking inside a few companies, and rewards and recognition has become part of, HR terminology. It's been part of how do we increase our engagement, right? And the transactional leader, that's a lot of it. It's they use rewards and punishments for motivation, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, and it
The stick
aligns
and
with
the
what you
carrot.
said, versus that enthusiasm, and really motivating them and inspiring them, because you're boots on the ground with them, right? We're in it to win it. It's there's a quote that we used to have in our retail stores that says, we win together, never lose alone, right? And so we're all in this together. And that separation between that transactional and transformational leader, proactive in nature versus reactive in nature. That's another, right? When you're
Mhm.
transactional, it's reactive, because you got these goals. If you don't hit your goals or you're not on your mark, you're reacting to these things. As a visionary transformational leader, when they come to that vision, they're proactive. How do we get to this vision? This is where we are now, and this is where we want to be, and this is how we're going to get there, right? And so it's always about being proactive, even in the midst of the downfalls and mistakes that could happen, or some setbacks, the uncertainties. It's all about proactive, and really, really creating that sense of trust and vulnerability, without fear and intimidation, right?
Yeah.
Where that leadership, creates that connection with them, because of their transforming leadership. And so, making those important decisions, having that strong personality, emphasizing development and setting goals, and directing, and not only directing, but also striving to also lead them on how to. That's the difference between, when I think about it, it's like transformative leaders say, hey, go do this. Transactional leader, sorry, says, hey, go do this. Transformative leaders say, hey, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
in a
Oh, let me
sense.
show you.
Yeah.
It,
Yep.
it's ju- yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. It's the difference, between the cowboy style of leadership that drives people.
Yeah.
And the shepherd who, when you study shepherding, um, the especially those shepherds that the sheep know the shepherd's voice, and they've spent time with the shepherd. We used, like, if you're a real shepherd, you smell like sheep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And shepherds, the difference between a cowboy kind of leadership and a shepherd leadership, a cowboy is very drives for me, like pushes people, and what shepherds do before a shepherd ever leads a sheep down a path, the shepherd's already walked that path. And that's what's powerful about the idea of really having the heart of a transformational leader, is saying, I'm walking this with you. Like, we're doing this together. I never thought about, like, recognition, reward, how we add perks to work. Like, it's all transactional. So much of our culture is so transactional when it comes to work. It's like, we have potential hires that are coming in, and we talked about this the last couple of weeks, the difference between having someone that's a culture fit and a culture add. Somebody that's a culture fit, we're just trying to get them to come in and kind of conform to what's already there, like the pattern of what already is. But when we have a transformative kind of culture, it's not just about, like, well, if we offer people this, maybe they'll come work for us. Or, maybe if we offer people this perk, then they will be happier at work, right? Happiness doesn't come, to your point, from just adding more carrots, and it doesn't come from adding more sticks. That motivation of the stick or the carrot, whether it's the punishment or the reward, is very transactional. And if you have Build a Culture Good book, I talk about the difference between motivating people by a stick or a carrot, or actually sitting down, lighting the sticks, as a campfire, and cooking the carrots and eating together and having communion, right? Having that collaboration is what I'm talking about. That collaborative work where we're in this as together on this, right? Like, there's trust being built in transformative leadership. There's, to your point, vulnerability, right? There's showing up and really being present with those around us. But that transformative leadership is quite different than the transaction. I was looking up something, George. I wanted to mention this. The Greek word of conform is, I'm going to butcher this, but it's systematizo, which means to be molded according to a pattern, right? That's what it means to conform. It's where we get the English word schematic from, right? So a schematic, it's like that culture fit. We have a schematic, we have a pattern. You got to fit in and conform to what's around us. But transform comes from the Greek word metamorpho, meaning to be changed from one thing into another. It's the Transformers of the 80s, right? Those toys. It's where we get the English word metamorphosis, which is where we normally would see the transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly, right? And that's the idea, is that we have this transformation taking place, and are people experiencing that transformative kind of work, in the workplace? And if not, how do we begin to build, ourselves as a transformative leader? How do we begin to embrace that as more than just a style, right? Because I think sometimes we get stuck into calling things styles, almost as if we can, like, change it. Like, um, if you ever look back on your yearbook in the 80s and 90s, sometimes you don't want to share those pictures because you've actually looked like you've transformed. But sometimes it's just like, you used to wear an outfit and you've changed your style. That's not what leadership isn't. A style. Leadership is a committed, um, it's a committed way of life, right? That is an example. When we think about what it is, it's really modeling and setting an example, and saying, if I want people to embrace this transformative kind of work, I have to be a transformative leader, because people won't embrace what I don't first embody.
for everybody that's watching, you talk about transform. For if you're watching live, you're going to get a little bit something special that everybody else can't see. So I got a throwback picture. You remember this picture, Ryan? This is probably
Hey,
this is probably what, 93,
that's
94.
93. That's
Yeah, so that's
1993
that's that's young George and Ryan.
and
This is
young Ryan.
10 and 16-year olds that finally met. Uh, and we talk about you talk about, I'm looking at this picture and I'm laughing uh, because man, I'm so glad that that 90-pound-year-old kid, found another 110 pounds to add to his life because yeah, that's hilarious. And I probably found another foot and a half at the
Well, you
time. I
can whoop
probably
my
had to get a
ass now.
yeah.
You can whoop my ass, but you were tiny back in the day, homie.
That was
Yeah,
about
like that.
4'8", 4'9". I'm striving, man. I'm so grateful for that sophomore, that freshman sophomore year where I went from like 5'8", 5'9" to 6'2", because man, that's a transformation. And I think about this when we talk about transformation, Ryan. Part of transformations is not, and I want to be honest, because from my standpoint, transformation isn't always easy.
Mhm.
That growth spurt was somewhat painful,
Yeah.
and sometimes and painful physically, and then it became awkward because I went from a size 9 to a size 12.
Right.
Growth and transformation cost you something, is what I'm getting at.
Mm.
There's a cost to transformation, and the outcome of that cost when you get there is worth it. But the process sometimes is not always easy, and when it comes to leadership, and then leadership and leading others, that there's always those stumbling blocks, right? And that's why it's so important between these two leadership styles, because every growth aspect is going to have some type of pain points. But when you have that transformational leadership style, you really are
See,
able to,
even
as you
you're calling
said,
it style.
what I'm saying? You're really able to really guide and lead them through some of those pain points and difficult moments.
Yeah.
When you look at the other side of it from transactional, there's no benefit, there's a reward. Why am I going to invest in you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you tend to kind of give up on that matter or
You
that
and you
person.
give up on people, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think if you're a transactional leader by nature, you probably lead yourself in the same way,
yep,
right? Um, if you find yourself, I would say this is a good indicator whether you're a transactional leader, transformative leader. If you're a transactional leader, you probably find yourself getting down on you quite a bit in terms of not showing yourself compassion, not showing yourself grace, having a difficult time offering yourself forgiveness and kindness, right? That translates into how you lead others, right? And to what I was saying before, it's not a style. It's not like you can throw on a leadership jacket and say, "Now I'm a transformative leader." That it's really a process, as what you're talking about, in its growth and its evolution and its metamorphosis. What are we? When we talk about leadership a lot, George, we ask four questions: Who am I? What do I want? Where am I headed? And who do I want to be when I get there? That last one, who do I want to be when I get there, is so important to have a vision of yourself in the future. It's
yeah,
what you do every morning when you meditate and you think about your day and you meditate on your day and you are grateful for aspects of what's going on in your day and you say this is the one thing I want to accomplish, but you're not just saying the one thing you want to accomplish, you're also saying this is who I want to be,
yeah,
right? This is how I want to show up. I think it's so important. One of the most practical things that we can do in the mornings as leaders to go from being transactional to transformational is that very thing, to circle back around to what you started with. What you're doing in the mornings, for those that miss, George takes his time to do some hit for 30 minutes and some meditation and drinks his green tea and all of those things, and all of that sounds like a bunch of self-care, and it is, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself something, right? You're providing yourself something, and it's not just a transaction. You're not just expecting everything to change that day. You're saying, I'm investing in me for the long term. I'm going to give myself this. And I think it's so
Yeah.
important for us to start there, to
Yep.
start at a place where, am I giving myself grace? Am I giving myself forgiveness? Have I offered myself compassion? When was the last time that I was really compassionate toward myself? It's a really good indicator whether we're being that to others, right? Because we can't be a reflection to others what we aren't first ourselves, and we have to be able to continue to give ourselves what we need to be transformed so that we can be a transformative leader for others.
Yeah.
Listen, you brought up earlier the Ohio thing and East Palestine and all that's going on over there, and the tornadoes that had come through Ohio. I have a family member that's in Ohio that I text them and I said, "How's it going? I heard there's tornadoes coming through." And they said, my partner's in the stairwell at their work, and I'm in the closet at my work, and this was the next response. I'm not having to work. And I thought, where in the hell have we come to that we would rather be hiding in a closet
Yeah.
in the threat of a tornado killing us and everybody around us, but at least we're not at work. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
just like, and it's like, man, there is such a disparity. Actually, I don't even know if the right word is disparity. There is such um a overwhelming need for transformational leadership to take place in the workplace for all of us, for our culture, for our community, our team members, our customers, our vendors. We know when we do business with a company or we work for a company, we know the difference between a toxic culture and a healthy culture. And anytime you see the difference between a toxic culture and a healthy culture, you're going to see the difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership every
Yeah.
single time. Every single time.
Yeah, and you think of it, Ryan. What are some of the impacts from transformational leadership? And I wrote down some things that I believe directly impacts some of those things, some of the outcomes, right, from an
Yeah.
individual organization, some of those characteristics, the organizational culture, right, the individual traits that are being able to be lived through and seen, the individual life experience where they can truly, we always say bring your soul to work, but really truly be who they are.
Yeah.
You see a lot of that leadership behavior then from the direct leader to we can call it mentor mentee. You see some of that inspiration in that team member, that inspiration and motivation, how they inspire others, right? So when you're impacted by good in transformational leadership, it tends to then flow to the next level, right? You want to pass that baton and really impact somebody. We call it each one reach one. And you see the idolized attributes be able to, and the behaviors be able to, pass down to the next. One of the other portions that I believe that it brings value and some of the outcomes of transformational leaders is that increased organizational commitment. Everybody's talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
engagement, fulfillment, and efficiency. You want that. You need to have and develop transformational leaders, because when you have transformational leadership, you'll see that increased organization commitment. Why? Because I am committed not necessarily to the business, but I'm committed to the growth that my leader directly above me has given me, and because of that, I want to be more a part of that. I want to be a part of this. I feel like I belong. I feel like I have somebody I can trust. That increased commitment to the leader and the vision, that increased enthusiasm, right? That the energy that
Yeah.
even when I don't feel like being where I'm supposed to be, I'm
Yeah.
doing it because, man, I know that when I'm around Ryan, the mornings that I do struggle on Wednesdays, I show up here, not necessarily just for myself. I show up here because I know that when you show up, there's something that I'm going to give, that energy that comes through that connecting of another friend, a brother, leader, that passes down, right? And so sometimes I don't have it, but I know that when I'm connected through somebody that may have it, and maybe you don't have it at the same time, maybe we both show up and neither one of us have it, but it's just that natural connection that even on those down days when we're both not feeling it,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is, the energy, man, that connection says, you know what, we both don't have it, but when I'm around you,
That
we have
sparks.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It creates that spark, right?
yeah,
And so the outcomes of this come from intentionality, right?
right.
Um, Thank you for saying that, Robert. Jumping on with us. Let's light up the world in this great work together. Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
I think it's you know if we in the morning before we go to work, before we sometimes I'll just when I wake up in bed, some people can't do this, if you wake up in the morning and you close your eyes and you end up falling back asleep. But I like to kind of lay there right there and just immediately start meditating and thinking about the three keys, right? We talked about what are the three keys from all of this. I'm hearing a few things as we talked about empowerment, right? And thinking about what you said is like asking them the question in the morning, um, how am I going to empower, who I'm going to empower, and why am I empowering them? And then the second thing, not only empowerment, but um, to have that motivation or desire. The commitment you're talking about, a commitment to the organization, is really what we talk about, that ownership. It's not just going through the motions or checking off boxes. Like we want to motivate people.
Yeah,
It's what you said. I'm motivated to show up because I know there's going to be a spark. I know that something great can happen. If it's transactional, then I feel like I have to make it happen every time. But if it's transformational, something we just get together, right? So it's
yeah,
empowerment, it's motivation, and it's also um, the looking at not only that but the collaboration. It's what are we doing together? We are better together. We're going to win together. How am I seeing that as I'm meditating on the day? How am I seeing collaboration take place? Not only how am I going to build collaboration for my team, but how am I going to show up in the midst of that collaboration and be a part of it so that I can set the example and really be that shepherd, not the cowboy. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
We don't need anybody else walking in with spurs and and uh all bad and tough and acting like, look, leadership is about position and title. It's really not. It's
yeah,
about it's about serving a greater good, serving others, and really having a scope of what leadership is outside of the short term. Do this for me, and I'll do this for you.
right,
You know.
right.
So
Right, right, right. Well, hey, we're at the top of
we're
the
out of time,
time,
man.
and I just want to encourage everybody as we wrap up. Champion Your Culture again, sponsored by Culture of Good. I want to challenge everybody when it comes to these types of leadership styles. Ultimately, the end goal, right? At this
Hold on
point
a
in
second,
time,
George. I think you were
yep.
looking up the picture when I was talking. That this is not a leadership style.
Ah,
There's no such thing as a leadership style.
yeah, right.
It's not a jacket you put on, right? Anyway, go ahead.
You mean it's not a
I don't
mask
want to
that I wear?
confuse everybody, huh?
You know, it's not a mask that I wear.
No, 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 no.
Transactional leadership mask.
There's no such thing as a leader. You're either a transformational leader or you just yeah. So
We need Yoda here to say to be or not to be.
to be or not to be.
There we go. But hey, bridging that trust gap between leaders and employees, I think, is a huge deal,
Yes.
especially today where there's this huge gap between senior leaders and employees. But understanding that trust plays a key role, especially in driving and encouraging employees and believe the business success. You got to have that, and so there's more that can be talked about, Ryan, on these two subject matters, and some of the principles that can be used in steps to taking and becoming that transformative leader. You want to wrap up with something? You got anything
Yeah.
special you want to wrap up with?
No, I just want to say I would love for anyone out there that's listening or you're hearing this and you're saying, how do I implement this within the scope of our work? And I would encourage you to reach out to us. A big part of what we are offering as our services is this very idea. And how do we embed leadership within the culture of our business so that there is a leadership culture. So we're going beyond leadership styles to a leadership culture where it's embedded in the DNA of the business and who we are, and we want to bring that into companies more than just a training or a video, but actually developing this with you and co-designing strategies that can be implemented so that your frontline leadership can understand what does it mean to be a transformative leader and how do I lead in this way. Because I would venture to say that most leaders that have been promoted from management or from frontline employees to different layers of leadership, most of them have functioned and worked within a transactional type culture. And that's just the very nature of how we have designed the workplace. And so as we now press into this transformational leadership culture, what we want to do as the culture of good is say, bring us in. We can help you with your strategies. Reach out to us at cultureofgood.com. And we would certainly love to help in any way possible. So anyway, thank you all for joining on with us today on Champion Your Culture. As always, thank you for Culture of Good. Thank you to Lighthouse Research and Advisory and Ben Eubanks. We appreciate that partnership and excited about what the next steps are going to be as we continue to build this culture, leadership culture within the workplace and impacting the world. George, I love you, man.
Love you too. Everybody out there that's watching, I love y'all as well.
Glad
And
you grew up, homie. I'm glad you're
hey,
still not 90 pounds.
transform, baby. Transform. A little pasta, a little cheese, a little carb, you know.
All right,
Oh,
y'all. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back next week on Champion
champion your
Your Culture.
culture.